Yeah, you can see us doing all this stuff.
Shai, let us get started with our Bhagavad Gita class. So we'll do the Mangala Charanam all together. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. So now let's go to the memorization verse of the week. 1322. You're welcome to stay. Okay, ready? 1322. Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya Sad Asatyoni Janmasu. Everyone all together now. Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya. All right, so if you got the melody already, you can sing along. The living entity in material nature, thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature, thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Okay. All right, so we started chapter 16 yesterday, the divine and demoniac natures, and we read texts 1 to 3, and we started reading this long purport. We did the qualities that apply specifically for the sannyasis, and now we are on page 4 of the purport where it says the next item is charity. So now we're going to go into a couple of qualities that are relevant for everyone, but most relevant for the householders, according to Prabhupada's purport here. So maybe we can just read the translation again, just for the sake of brushing up on those qualities, and then can pick up where we left off in the purport. Do you want to read, Divya?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness,
Covetousness,
gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
Okay. So you want to pick it up there from the next item?
The next item is charity. Charity is meant for the householders. The householders should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and 50% of their income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thus, a householder should give in charity to institutional societies that are engaged in that way. Charity should be given to the right receiver. There are different kinds of charity, as will be explained later on. Charity in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended by the scriptures, but charity in the modes of passion and ignorance is not recommended because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. That is charity in the mode of goodness.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Prabhupada says this is charity, is for the householders. And did we talk about charity in the modes of nature? I think that's coming. We didn't get to it in this class, right? So yeah, and next chapter, I think, yeah, in the next chapter, Krishna will delineate different, charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion, charity in the mode of ignorance. So he's saying here that charity should be in the mode of goodness, or in the mode, or in transcendence. Charity should be transcendental. And what makes it transcendental is when we give money to propagate Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness. And that's in the mode of goodness. Yeah, so we'll get more details about that later on, so I won't go into it now. But yeah, so charity is for the householders, because in the Varnashram, I mean, householders are meant to give charity to others, because the householders, Grihastha ashram is the only ashram where people are making money, right? It's like the only ashram where you have a career. Like brahmacharis are not meant to have jobs. They're meant to just be the humble servants of the spiritual master, living in the ashram, serving the temple or devotee community in different ways, like that. And then we heard that the sannyasi is supposed to be, living very simply, just traveling, begging from door to door for his food, and, not earning anything. And so if the householders aren't charitable, then the sannyasis aren't going to survive, because they're going knocking on the door of the householders, asking for donations of food or whatever they need, money, clothes, whatever. And so the householders need to be charitable to sannyasis, and sometimes brahmacharis go out begging on behalf of their sannyasi gurus. And like now, right, brahmacharis go out and do sankirtan and take donations. So householders need to be charitable, give to them. And vanaprasthas are kind of like the sannyasis, that they've left their homes and they're maybe living back in the ashram or living in some simple situation and trying to really cultivate Krishna consciousness and develop detachment. So the householders are the only ones that are working jobs and earning money and, having a career. So because they have money, then they have to maintain the other three. But in Kali Yuga, it's almost like the opposite, that the grihastas are kind of like sponging off the temples. Sometimes you get that the grihasta devotees are coming to the temple to just try to see what they can get in terms of prasadam or, facility or something like that. And that is not dharmic. That is not the way to advance in grihasta ashram. So the grihasta should be giving. Prabhupada says that they should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and give 50% of their income to the temple, to, devotees who are preaching, basically. So yeah, anyone who's a grihasta, keep that in mind, that you're expected to earn money and give charity. That's actually the duty. And that maintains the sanctity of the grihasta ashram, because grihasta ashram is an ashram where you could really indulge your senses. You could just like spend all your money on comforts and luxuries and going on, expensive vacations and cruises and, going out to the movies with your wife and husband and family, kids. Huh?
No.
Buying like expensive boga. Oh, I wasn't accusing you. I'm just saying that sannyas is a grihasta ashram. Yeah, is an ashram where those things, you could get really into Maya. Let's put it that way. You could get really into Maya in Grihastha ashram. More scope for Maya than in Brahmacharya ashram or Sannyas ashram or something. So in order to discourage the Grihasthas from spending their money on sense gratification, they have to give in charity. So yeah, the idea is that, and then when they give away their hard-earned money, then they develop a sense of it. It brings about detachment, even if they're like they don't want to give. They're giving kind of like, ugh, I'd really much rather go out and like buy a fancy sports car, but it's my duty to give to the temple. So they give to the temple, and then by doing it, they're like, you know what? That actually felt really good. Like I didn't want to do it at first, but I surrendered, and because Krishna reciprocates. And so Krishna gives you a feeling of satisfaction, and Krishna also rewards that the more you give, the more you actually get. Not that that's why you're giving, but that's just how it is. I mean, even I've experienced that whenever I kind of there's one there was one. Okay, so there was one devotee who did he did some favor for me, and I thought I'm going to give him a donation. So I gave him like what for me was kind of like a large donation. It was kind of like it was enough money that it kind of like pinched, It wasn't just like, yeah, take it, whatever, that you don't feel it. But it was like I gave enough that it was like, like it didn't feel comfortable. So anyways, I was like, whatever, he helped me, he should get something. So I gave him, and then immediately, like the same day, the evening of the same day, there was one devotee that like a couple days before had asked me for, like I had done a PowerPoint presentation and he had asked me for the PowerPoint. And then so like I had put tons of work into making that PowerPoint presentation, all the research for the content, and then all the work just with the graphics and the images and everything. And then when I gave it to him, I was feeling like, bro, like I put hundreds of hours into that presentation because it wasn't just a single it was like a seminar. It was like a multi-session seminar. And I just attached the files to the email and just sent it. And it was just like, and then he just had it, like for nothing. And I was just like, this doesn't seem right. Anyways, I should give. I should be generous. Like I'm a Brahmin. I have to like give knowledge. I have to, I'm a teacher. I have to encourage other teachers. So anyways, I just gave it. And then I got a message from him like the next day. He said, oh, I wanted to give you a donation. Your PowerPoint's really good and all that. So I wanted to give you something. And he said he sent me $500. And I was like, wow, that was, but he said, check in your bank account and see if you received it. So I looked and I didn't have, somehow it wasn't there. There was like nothing. And then I said, no, I didn't get it. And he said, well, send me another like phone number or email address or whatever. I'll try sending it a different way. So he sent it a different way. And then, so the next day I looked and there were two. There were like 2 credits of $500. So he sent me $1,000. And then I called him and I was like, Prabhu, that one must have been delayed. So both payments went through and you actually gave me $1,000. So let me send the second 500 back. He's like, no, you keep it. And I was like, what? That's a lot of money. And then he said, well, don't worry about it. If next time you make a PowerPoint, just send it. Just like keep sharing your PowerPoints with me. So I was like, okay, deal, whatever. So anyways, I was just like really blown away by how I gave that donation. Like first I gave money to someone, then I gave the PowerPoint, and I gave with no expectation that I was going to get anything back. And then the next day I just got this like huge donation, and I was just like, okay, Krishna, I trust you that I can give, like I can give, and I'm not going to be a loser. I'm not going to just be depleted. So yeah, Conte Prabhu was here. He gave a whole class. Were any of you here for that Conte Prabhu's class he gave about charity?
What's his name?
Contea.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure you weren't here, but maybe the other girls might have been. Anyways, it was some months ago. Yeah, it was really good. And he was making that point. He was like, when you give to Krishna consciousness, it's like you get so much in return. You never it's never a loss. And even, of course, spiritually, you gain so much because it's service. You're making a sacrifice, serving the Vaishnavas, serving the temple. But even materially, it's not a loss because it always comes back. And it usually comes back like more. you know, so. Anyway, something to remember, because sometimes we can be very miserly and think that, oh, I need to just keep everything that I have. Yeah.
The question is that, like last time I asked one Prabhuji, I say that, Sastra says that, you give 50% of your income to people who practice Krishna conscious, like half of your income, you think it's okay, you can do like that. And he's like 7 years, so he said that nowadays, if you give your money to temple, he gave me an example, like one LV temple, you give money and they misuse the money to something else, so don't give your
Hmm.
you simply give charity like to temples, it comes from purely confidence. So I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I
we
don't
should.
know, like suddenly
We should give intelligently, not just give indiscriminately, right? So do your research and make sure you're giving it to devotees who are going to actually use it in Krishna consciousness and not embezzle it or something, right? So yeah, generally, like if you're in a temple and there's going to be a Rath Yatra festival or Janmashtami festival, or you could sponsor a feast for the devotees or something like that, it's going to that because that thing costs money, right? Like. Yeah, they fundraise for events and you can see what they're doing with the money. When you go on the event, you see that, wow, they put on a huge feast. They threw a great festival, so many flowers. Like they have, on Radhastami and for Kirtan 50, they spend like $10,000 just on flowers. So, the money's going to like, you see they're spending the money on pleasing the Lord, So yeah, you have to see where your money's going and make sure that you trust the people that you're giving it to. Don't give blindly, but you should give. You shouldn't think, oh, they could use it they might just be pocketing it, and so I won't give to anything. I'll just keep everything. No, just do your research and give wisely. Kritika, you had your hand up?
Yeah, yeah, I kind of got a little idea what you're saying. Yeah, my question was, do you have to give it to your local temple or it can be like any temple?
It can be to any, I mean, just give it to spread Krishna consciousness somehow or other.
Sorry?
It can be to any temple. The point is that
Okay.
give the money to spread Krishna consciousness. So you can give to
Okay.
this temple, that temple, whatever, the TOVP, the new.
Okay. Okay.
Or you can give
Okay.
to a devotee that you know and trust and needs
Yeah.
either devotee, maybe it might be a devotee who's who's starting a new project and they need financial support for their project, or you might
Yeah.
just give to a devotee who is a good devotee who needs financial help with their living expenses,
Yeah.
like that, or like medical expenses or something, or sponsor their trip to India, or something like that.
Okay.
Pragati, did you have your?
So when you said that about charity, and sometimes it happens that for someone money is valuable. For sometimes we have something like other things we are attached to, and if you get it, like if you are in a situation where you have to give, so it's very hard, and yes, pinching. So I was also remembering of that eagle example you gave in your PPT,
Mm.
where eagle just leaves that fish.
The osprey dropped the fish
Yeah.
because the eagle was chasing him. Yeah. Want it.
Yeah. Lot of people, because that thing is valuable, or if you are connected to it.
Mhm.
So should I think that okay, I should leave and I'm gonna get more? Like there should be some very good mode of goodness thought on that for that charity or something. Now, if I think I should give it to charity and I'm gonna get more.
If we're thinking, oh, I should give this away because it's so much trouble, it's like
Yeah,
just a
you
source of
just-
trouble. Well, what we saw, I mean, we'll get to that, but I think it's it's either chapter 17 or the beginning of 18, where Krishna, he analyzes everything in the three modes. And he says that renunciation, when someone renounces something because it's troublesome or inconvenient, or, then that's renunciation in the mode of passion. So charity should be in the mode of goodness. We shouldn't be giving something away because we don't want it, right? It's kind of like when you go through your closet and you find like you know, some sari that you haven't worn in 10 years because you don't like it, and you're just like, oh, do you want a sari? I want to gift you a sari. That's not mode of goodness. Mode of goodness is you think, what does that person like? What do they need? And then, you know, you give something to please them, not just to relieve yourself of a unwanted thing.
Yes, like in India, a lot of conflicts happen with the property thing. Like if someone has a property, brother, sister, they want to take it. So in that situation, should we just leave that property or should we fight for that? Or, you know, your valuable thing or your asset if someone say,
I mean, you might just, that's a different, in that case, it's not really charity in the sense, you know, you're not like giving charity to spread Krishna consciousness or to a charity. You're just kind of like being like, all right, well, I don't want to fight with you guys, just have the damn land, you know, like whatever. Just, I value our relationship more than this land, you know, this material thing. Yeah. Awani?
Yeah. About the sari thing, you know, like I feel like a lot of love some saris, and then somebody's birthday, like I'll pack the sari, give it. But they're new.
Yeah.
So I'm not wearing. I could like throw it. Instead of throwing it, I think this nice sari came.
Yeah, that's nice.
in.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Do you want to read Kunti as far as Dhamma? Dhamma?
But is especially meant for the householder. Although he has a wife, a householder should not use his senses with sex life unnecessarily. There are restrictions for the householders even in sex life, which should only be engaged in for the propagation of children. If he does not require children, he should not enjoy sex life with his wife. Modern society enjoys sex life with contraceptive methods or more abominable methods to avoid the responsibility of children. This is not in the transcendental quality, but is the Loka. If anyone, if he is a householder, wants to make progress in spiritual life, he must control his sex life and should not beget a child without the purpose of serving Krishna. If he is able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children, but without this capacity, one should not indulge only for sense pleasure.
Yeah, Prabhupada got this hundreds of children thing from his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So I think that someone was questioning him about, you know, taking sannyas at a relatively young age or something, and why didn't you get married like most people do? And he said that well, if I thought or somebody said like, what's wrong with marriage and sex and things, it's natural and all that, right? He came with that argument. And then he said, well, if I was sure that I could take that my children would go back home, back to Godhead, then I would have sex 100 times or hundreds of times or something like that. So Prabhupada says, yeah, that if he's able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children. Yeah, but without this capacity, one should not indulge only for sex pleasure. So in this paragraph here, Prabhupada gives a very high bar for like when sex is okay, basically, yeah, okay. Yeah. So first of all, he says that it has to be within marriage, right? Between husband and wife, householders in Grihastha ashram. Second, that it should be only for conceiving a child. And then thirdly, that one must be capable of bringing that child back to Godhead, right? Making that soul that takes birth as your child Krishna conscious. Yeah, so there's like three things. So other places he says that, you know, sex must be within marriage, but so there's different levels of applying Srila Prabhupada's instructions about, you know, sex, but the minimum is marriage, right? Sex outside of marriage, Prabhupada is just like, no, that's like animal life. It's basically not even human life. So at least be married. And then within marriage, best if you can be self-controlled, right? That's what this is about, Dhamma, self-control. Be controlled and don't just, you know, have sex all over the place just because it's fun. But, it's actually meant for a purpose, and do it for that purpose, which is to conceive children. So, yeah, but at least it must be within marriage. That's like the bare minimum. At least then it's not like absolutely sinful, It's not breaking the regulative principles, but it's kind of like, it's still going to be degrading, and it's still going to be, it's still it's going to take our energy away from Krishna consciousness and put us in the bodily concept of life and keep us attached to material world and the cycle of repeated birth and death and all that. So it doesn't have a good outcome. Literally, it's not worth the 2-minute twizzle and a buzz of pleasure that you get out of it. So yeah. So Prabhupada's really helping us. Some people say, oh, this is fanatical, this is so extreme. But Prabhupada's really trying to help us to get out of the cycle of repeated birth and death, get off the bodily concept of life, and understand that this body is not just for me to enjoy. This body is actually Krishna's property, and it's meant for his service. And so married couples can have sex in the service of Krishna by conceiving children and helping those children to become Krishna conscious and perfect their lives. And then that's beautiful, that's glorious, that's wonderful. And someone can do that, should have sex hundreds of times and have hundreds of children and make them all devotees and let them all go back to Godhead. But Prabhupada says, if you can't do that, then rein it in. Right?
Or at least within marriage.
At least within marriage, yeah. Okay. All right then. And then, yeah, the other thing is that if, even a married couple has sex, has children, then, if you're not qualified to actually make the children Krishna conscious, if you're not very Krishna conscious yourself, then you're going to end up with like a lot of problems in the household life, because it's difficult raising a family outside of Krishna consciousness, right? Just talk to anybody, any family out there. It's like a struggle dealing with, all those family relationships without Krishna being in the center. Difficult enough even when Krishna is in the center, but when, without Krishna consciousness, it's just like miserable. Okay. Good. So far for householders, we had charity, we had self-control, and now we have sacrifice. Do you want to read it, Runa?
Sacrifice is another item to be performed by the householder, because sacrifices require a large amount of money. Those in other order like namely brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyasa have no money. They live by begging. The performance of different kinds of sacrifice is meant for the householders. They should perform Agnihotra sacrifice, as enjoyed in the Vedic literature. But such sacrifices at the present moment is very expensive, and it is not possible for any householder to perform them. The best sacrifice recommended in this age is called Sankirtan Yajna. This Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Everyone can benefit and Virat benefit. So these three items, namely charity, sense control, and performance of sacrifice, are made for the householder.
Okay, you can pause there. So yeah, so basically Grihastha ashram, anything related to money or sex. It's for grihastas. Because those are the two things that grihastas can have and no one else can have. So yeah, so you have money, give it in charity. If you have money, use it for sacrifice. Use it for yajnas. And all these yajnas are expensive, right? Like of course, yeah, ghee. You need ghee. I need paraphernalia. So I mean, yeah, Prabhupada is emphasizing that in this age, we can't do the elaborate sacrifices that they did, like in 5,000 years ago, or at the time of Krishna, they did these 1,000-year sacrifices for the benefit of humanity, and they like used gold paraphernalia and so much gallons and gallons of ghee and things. So, but still, like even nowadays, we do some little sacrifices, right? Like wedding, vivaha yagya, weddings cost a lot of money. and even initiation ceremonies, housewarming ceremonies, all these, we have yagyas and, so they cost some money. So the householders need to, and you could say that like all the festivals that we put on at the temple, they're kind of like they're like sacrifices. They're like you're spending money, you're creating a sacred atmosphere and inviting others to partake of it, and it's all for the pleasure of the Lord. So it's basically like a sacrifice. That's what these sacrifices were in those days, is that they would do a big yagya, invite people, connect everyone to Krishna, make a big whole, it was kind of like almost like a social event, right? That people would come to these things. So especially, pious people. So it's kind of like our festivals now are the equivalent of that. So yeah, the onus is upon the householders to sponsor these festivals, right? Householders need to use their money. So these are very similar. Charity and sacrifice in this sense are related because they both require money. And also the priest who's performing the sacrifice has to be given donations, so householders have to give the donation for that. So yeah. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to the brahmachari. Brahmachari gets one short paragraph. Pregnancy.
Then, Swadhyaya, Vedic study is meant for brahmacharya or student life. Brahmacharis should have no connection with women. They should live a life of celibacy and engage the mind in the study of Vedic literature for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is called Swadhyaya.
Yeah, so brahmachari life is like this: celibacy and Vedic study, right? Interesting that our brahmachari is not here doing the Vedic study. That's another thing. Yeah, but traditionally brahmacharis would that was basically they would live in the ashram, and the tradition was that it was gurukula meant guru means your guru, and then kula actually means like the family or the community. So gurukula meant like the community of devotees that live with the guru. So of course in ISKCON, Gurukul is like, it's different because it's a school with teachers and a principal who are not, the teachers are in one sense gurus, but because they're your teachers, but they're not like the same kind of gurus as the guru. So it would actually be like a guru, who would be, he would live there, and most of the gurus were actually grihastas in those days, like the Brahmin, that's what Brahmins would be married, and like Sandipani Muni, right? So Sandipani Muni, his wife was there, and they were living in their house, and then they had an ashram, and then young boys would go and live in the ashram, and they would be cared for by the guru and Guru Mata, and it was like a family. And Krishna and Balaram, they went to the Gurukul. So Gurukul meant you're living with your guru. You become part of the guru's family or the guru's community, and he teaches you and he cares for you. And it's not just like you go to school and learn some academics or something, but it was like you're part of the family. It's like sweet little family where you feel very cared for. And sometimes, like there's one thing in the scriptures that says that if the guru's wife is young, then the brahmachari shouldn't let her massage his body. So it just goes to show like that the guru's wife was so motherly towards the boys, the young students in the ashram, that she would feed them, she would, sometimes even massage them like parents do their children, because massage is good for growing and healthy growth of the body and things like that. So, or if they were doing a lot of hard work, cleaning out the goshala or something, shoveling cow dung, or because they would also do menial service, like they had their classes, but they would also do service in exchange, right? It was like like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that inquire from the guru submissively and render service unto him. So that was the process, that they would inquire, they would learn, but they would also give back and reciprocate with service. So the brahmacharis would live a simple life, do menial service for the guru. Like even Krishna, he and Sudam went to fetch firewood. right? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he set the example for everyone by going to school when he was young. His parents sent him over to, Ujjain to go to school. And there's a temple there. There's a really sweet temple in Ujjain with very unique deities. I went there. I was really surprised to see the deities. So on the altar is Krishna and Balaram. And then in front of the altar is another altar. It's like a higher seat that's in the middle of the temple room floor. And it's like an asan. And Sandipani Muni is sitting in the asan. He's like with folded legs and he's like with the instruction mudra. I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like that or something. So he's like teaching. And then on the altar, there's Krishna and Balaram, and they're also sitting, and they have, and this is part of the deity. It's not just like something that's put there, but it's like the actual like marble deity is that they're holding a book. There's a book there, and they have pencil in their hand.
I have.
You've seen that picture?
We have that, like a mini version of that.
Oh, yeah?
At my house.
It's
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
They're both sitting and they're so cute, and they've got shaved heads because they're doing the brahmachari thing, and they're studying. They got their, notebook or their Vedic thing and their pencil, and then Sandipani Muni's there and he's teaching them. So yeah, so they would learning like that, but then they're also going out and fetching firewood because Guru Mata, Sandipani Muni's wife, was probably cooking on the wood, and also they used that for yagyas. They were probably learning how to do yagyas and things too. So that was required. And they got caught in a storm and they had to sleep in the forest that night in the rain, and they got all wet and cold, and yeah, so they did some austerity there. But yeah, so even Krishna did that. Celibacy, engaging the mind in Vedic study for the cultivation of spiritual knowledge. So that's brahmachari life. Simple. So they only need a short paragraph because it's very easy. Okay. Now the next thing is the vanaprasthas. Okay. Do you want to read, Avani?
Tapas or austerity is especially meant for the retired man. One should not remain a householder throughout his whole life. He must always remember that there are 4 divisions of life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. So after grahastha, householder life, one should retire. If one lived for 100 years, he should spend 25 years in student life, 25 in householder life, 25 in retired life, and 25 in a renounced order of life. These are the regulation of the Vedic religious discipline. A man retired from household life must practice austerities of the body, mind, and tongue. That is tapasya. The entire Varnashrama Dharma society is meant for tapasya. Without tapasya or austerity, no human being can get liberation. The theory that there is no need of austerity in life, that one can go on speculating and everything will be nice, is recommended neither in the Vedic literature nor in Bhagavad Gita. Such theories are manufactured by show-bottle spiritualists who are trying to gather more followers. If there are restrictions, rules, and regulations, people will not become attracted. Therefore, those who want followers in the name of religion, just to have a show only, don't restrict the life of their students nor their own lives. But that matter is not approved by the Vedas.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Prabhupada is saying that tapasya is necessary. There's one place where Srila Prabhupada says that human life is meant for austerity. It's not meant for self-indulgence. In another place, he says that austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins. Right? So, like Kshatriyas have a lot of money, and Vaishyas have money, and Shudras, they don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of service. But the Brahmins, their wealth is their austerity, their ability to perform austerities, because it's a great quality, that if you can live simply, then life becomes easy, right? You don't have a lot of needs. And if you don't have a lot of needs, then you don't need to work very hard, and you don't cause any trouble for anyone, and you're not demanding, and you're just simple, and you can be austere. And it's good because austerity actually, like, when we do austerities, it breaks the identification with the body, because the senses of the body are always wanting comforts, always wanting gratification. So austerity means to forego gratification of the senses, right? To voluntarily say no to sense gratification. So yeah, like body wants to just, especially in the wintertime, you just want to like lie in your nice cozy warm bed in the morning. But austerity is no, get up, and take a shower and then so that's like yeah, and we're going to read also about different austerities. There's austerities for the mind, austerities for the body, austerities for what's the other one? Speech. Yeah. Sometimes we want to just say something, but then our intelligence, if we're lucky, jumps in and says, no, don't say that now. So that's an austerity, is to like, like bite your tongue when you want to say something that could be hurtful or inappropriate or just not the right time for it or something. So, yeah. On fasting days, we observe some austerities, right? Like fasting, or even, I mean, devotee life in general, in terms of eating, sometimes, it's an austerity, right? Like today we went to his doctor's office and then they had some snacks there. And there was like, one was like a bag of like those cheddar cheese crackers, and another one was like a granola bar. And then I picked up the cheddar cheese cracker, like, oh, it has onion in it, can't have it. And then I grabbed the granola bar, but then I was going to eat it, and then I saw it had canola oil in it. And I was just like, all right, well, no snacks for me. Whereas, if I was just to, of course, canola oil in one sense is not good for the health, but it's not breaking a principle. But yeah, when you walk into the supermarket, like half of the things there we can't eat. And then so people are eating all kinds of things, and just like, well, or sometimes you might go to an event, like if you have a job, sometimes they have these, work parties or work, like kind of like socializing events for people that you work with to try to, bring together the team and get to know each other or celebrate some company win or something. So they have this thing. So you go and it's like everybody's just like eating meat, and there's onions, even the vegetarian things, there's like onions and there's eggs in the desserts, and they're drinking also, alcoholic beverages. And you're just there like, wishing that you had brought a sandwich from home or something. And everybody's telling you, oh, this is so good. Oh, wow, this is so tasty. And oh, the cake is so moist, and the this and that. And, everyone's like getting silly drinking and having a good old time, or at least temporarily. And you're just like, why am I here? So, yeah, but so it's an austerity in one sense. But it's like you forego a lower pleasure for a higher purpose. So they're getting immediate gratification from indulging in those things, but what's the result going to be? Bad karma, right? Bad karma, because they may not know it, but drinking alcohol is like, you get bad karma for that. Eating meat, you get very bad karma for that. And there's other things, affect the mind and bring about like disturbances and lust and greed and anger and all these things. And so you end up miserable internally, and then bad things happen to you in your life because of the bad karma. And so you may be, like in saying no to the alcohol and the meat and all those things, you may be like, feeling a little bit like, okay, this is not fun. But later, when Krishna rewards you for that little sacrifice, then you're happy. You become happy and satisfied in your life. Where those people that indulged in the immediate gratification, in the long term, they're going to suffer like anything. So it's kind of like, yeah, I do a little bit of austerity for the sake of getting a huge benefit later. Whereas they just completely indulge, but then they suffer so much later. So that's another thing that Krishna is going to talk about, is happiness in the modes of nature. That happiness in the mode of passion is like nectar in the beginning, but poison in the end. So it's like you go to that party and you drink and you eat and all these things, and then afterwards you feel terrible. You feel sick, you wake up in the morning with a headache, and you just, ugh, right? Whereas happiness in the mode of goodness is like poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. So poison in the beginning because you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, you don't want to like have to say no to something that looks fun. But you do. And then afterwards, you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I got out of bed and went to Mangalarti. I'm really feeling good now after that. I'm so glad that I chose to eat healthy prasadam and, not something else. Or I'm so happy that I chose to live a Krishna conscious life because it's such a beautiful life. And I see that everybody else, all my friends from high school and college that chose to not live a Krishna conscious life, they're just really miserable. And like I'm the only happy person in my family or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm the only devotee in my family. So yeah. So that's a sign of real intelligence, is that we're able to forego some immediate gratification for a higher purpose. Right? They did some like sociological studies on this, where I think they did some experiments. Like the sociologists, they went into these elementary school classrooms and they told the kids that they said, you can either have like one cookie now, or or you can have two cookies like after 2 hours. Right? So then like most of the kids are on 4 and they're like, I want my cookie now. Like the cookies look good. I just want to eat one now. And then there are some kids that are just like, no, that's okay. I can wait 2 hours, get 2 cookies. So then they wait. So then what these sociologists did was they studied those kids. They did like a long-term sociological study over a period of like their life, like some decades of their life. And they saw that all the ones who waited the 2 hours to get the 2 cookies, they all became highly successful, because they were willing to, because even to go to university, it's like people who are like less intelligent, they'll just finish high school and go into the workforce to earn money as soon as they can so that they can get immediate gratifications because they want money, they want to buy their own car, they want to have nice clothes, they want to impress people with, money and the things that money can buy. And then other people who are like intelligent, they'll be like, they'll voluntarily accept, an additional 4 or 6 or 8 years of poverty, knowing that at the end, they're going to be earning a lot of money. So that kid that just graduated from high school, for the most part, okay, they got money immediately, but how much are they earning? Maybe they're just, squeaking by on a low income for the rest of their life. Whereas that person who, decided to wait and invest in education, and even though they may be impoverished and maybe have tons of debt at the end of 8 years, actually, but then they get a job that's paying like, 150,000 a year or something, and then they pay off their debt, and then they go on to be like, pretty wealthy. So yeah, that's what they observed. So that's the thing, that so in spiritual life, sometimes we give up things, and people sometimes look at devotees and they can be a little critical or judgmental and think that we made a big mistake. Like, and they present it in a way that's like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed. They don't let you eat meat. You're not allowed to eat eggs or whatever. You're not allowed to watch, movies or listen to certain types of music or whatever, like as if we're forced or something. It's like, no, actually, I chose this. I chose to do this. But they still, even if they do respect that it's your choice, but they think it's a bad choice. Right. But yeah, one time, I think it was Jai Advaita Maharaj, he was walking down the street in New York, and then somebody came up to him and he said, oh, I feel really sorry for you guys. And then Sajjad Maharaj says, sorry for us? Why would you feel sorry for us? And he said, oh, because you had to give up so much, so many things. And then he said, you had to give up so many things to live this life. And then Maharaj said, no, actually, we only had to give up one thing. And then the person asked him, oh, really? What was the one thing you had to give up? And he said, suffering. Because he understood that these things, that if you indulge in them, they just bring you suffering, right? Sense gratification just gives you suffering. Krishna says that, right? In Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, it says, Yehi samsparsha jabhoga dukkha yona evate. that he says an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses, because these things have a beginning and end. And so the wise person doesn't delight in sense gratification, because sense gratification, Krishna says, is the source of misery. So he said that we only had to give up one thing, suffering, because these things are all causes of suffering. So yeah, we have to know what actually causes happiness and what actually causes suffering, and don't believe what our minds and senses tell us. We have to accept on the basis of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra that, you know, meat, fish, eggs, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, these are like the main things that cause suffering. And if we can just give those up, then we can give up a lot of suffering. Yeah. Any questions about that? Comments? What do you think, Lavanga? Thanks for joining us. I haven't seen you for a few days, so welcome back.
Oh no, it's good to be back. We started a new program at the temple, so I was busy with that. But
Okay.
I wanted to say when you're mentioning about you know how sometimes they'll present things like, oh, Hare Krishnas are not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that. It was reminding me of when my my grandmother asked, "Are you allowed to watch TV?" And I said, well, I'm allowed to do whatever I can do. The thing is, you lose the desire for doing these things after a while. And like
Yeah.
anything I did that was like different from what they were doing, that they just started to assume that that's what all Hare Krishnas did. Like
Mm.
if I prefer to drink something hot instead of cold, they're like, oh, Hare Krishna people do it like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was yeah, they see things as but anyway, they see things as oh, you know, like you're not allowed to do something instead of actually, you know, well, I'm I'm choosing not to do it because I no longer have a desire for doing it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I totally know what you mean with that, the way they generalize, because one time oh yeah, my husband and I had been living in England, and when we moved to America, we had a lot of really nice pots, you know, like cooking pots. So good cooking pots are like, you know, very valuable for, you know, people who appreciate good food and cooking. So we didn't want to just leave our pots, so we got them shipped, you know, and so we to fit them nicely in the box, we unscrewed all the handles. We took all the pot handles off and put them on the side, because then we could stack one pot inside the other nicely. So we packed them like that in the box without the handles. So we got the box shipped to my mother's house. And then when we got to America, we went to my mother's house, and you know, we had a few boxes of our stuff there, and one was full of pots. So then while we were cooking there, we thought, oh, we don't need to use their pots that they cooked meat and things in, so we'll use our own pots, because anyways, we have our own pots here. Not that I'm totally fanatical about it, but you know, I would just wash the pot well. If I had to use their pot, I would just wash it well and use it anyway. But since we had our own pots, I thought we'll use our own. So we took them out of the box, but they didn't have the handles screwed on them yet, and we were just like, whatever, we'll just use it. We'll put the handles on later. Anyway, so then we were eating dinner, and then afterwards washing the dishes or something. So the pot's sitting there without the handle on it. Like none of the pots have handles on it. And so my stepfather comes in, and then I don't know, he would say things like, he was just kind of rough and gruff. So then he says, oh yeah, these Hare Krishnas, they don't believe in pot handles. Like as if it was like, you know, like a religious value or something, that like there was something like philosophically wrong with having handles on your pots. Just so ignorant, you know? So people like make a lot of assumptions about what you actually believe, what you know, allowed to do or not allowed to do, and it's like it's just so silly. Anyways.
also, I want to appreciate what you were saying at the beginning when I joined. It felt like a Grihasta class. You know, you were talking like the points that you were reading about these are Grihastas. And one of the things that I've found with this is that actually it seems pretty amazing in today's society if you can stay with one partner.
Hmm.
Like, because even like now that like I've gotten married and stuff, I'm seeing like some of my friends are just, like they're still like they're getting divorced, or they don't really take it very seriously. Or
Mm.
not, I don't want to say they don't take it seriously, but I'm just saying it seems like even to like today, like if you manage to stay with one person, people are like, wow, you guys have been married for so many years, like that's awesome. Like it's considered an achievement.
You
And
made your
I was
victory.
right, and I was reading about like going through the Bhagavad. I was having a discussion with my husband about this because it was in one section it was talking about Grihamedes, that it was mentioning how they're like pious, they give in charity, and I was like, Grihamedes seem like actually like good people, like Bhagavatam Grihamedes, doing, because like compared to like what you see in today's society. So
Yeah.
it was just what you're mentioning, it was making me think, actually how far we've kind of fallen compared to what the standard actually is for being devotees.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the world is going down fast. If you read about the descriptions of like Shudras, like, the duties and um, qualifications of Shudras, then, we don't even, like Shudras, one of the qualities of a Shudra is they're honest. Like how many people are even honest in their work and things like that. So, like people nowadays are not even Shudras, they're Shudra bandhus. They're like posing as They're not even like you need a qualification to even be qualified as a Shudra. So, yeah. Anyways, these divine qualities are something that, may be rare to find even within ourselves, but still we should aspire for these and we should hear about them and meditate on them and pray to have them. And yeah, the thing about these qualities and the reason that Prabhupada is applying them to different varnas and or ashrams is because they purify the ashram, right? So uh, yeah, a sannyasi becomes purified by um, begging and distributing knowledge. Sannyasi becomes purified by what's the other thing? Yeah, purification of one's existence. Yeah, following the principles of the ashram. And then householders become purified by giving in charity. They become purified by raising children in Krishna consciousness. So yeah, if Prabhupada would say that marriage without children is sense gratification. So, but if you actually have children, then it's it's work, it's like it's a burden. Raising children, it's a burden of love, but it's a burden. So what happens is that when you accept the burden of children as a result of sex life, then you get purified of sex desire by raising children. It actually works. So there's a science to it. There's a science to it. That, couples go into marriage like full of sex desire. They have a few kids, and at the end, they're just like, you know what? I'm just really done with this. So, yeah. I don't know how it works, but it works. Something, I mean, yeah.
Because they're like realizing the consequences of their actions. If they're, like if they're doing that without, thinking, everyone knows like when you have sex, like this is what the result's gonna be. But
Yeah.
then when they're not expecting it, then they have to deal with the consequences of it. And I feel like even higher than that, it's like doing it deliberately. Like I want to produce like, I want to contribute to society in a positive way. I want to produce devotee children and something like that, and doing it intentionally. Whereas like this is like they're just suffering the results of their actions.
Yeah, I think it just gets because you're doing it to have children and that you want to have devotee children and you really work hard to raise those children.
You're not
I
doing
think
it
it gets spiritualized,
Yeah.
right? Because you're literally doing it in Krishna's service, and it gets spiritualized, and then it in its spiritualized form, actually, like lust when it's purified is love. And so the lust, when it gets purified by, raising your children in Krishna consciousness and spiritualizing your lusty sex desire, then it comes out as love that you want to give to everyone, like yeah, that you're able to actually love Krishna
Mm.
and love your family and like put your love into action by doing devotional service and by sharing Krishna consciousness with, you know, conditioned souls out there who are suffering. You develop compassion. So it's a very deep thing, actually. Very powerful when we do things in Krishna service, how it's so transformative. Can take like the most degrading, most entangling, you know, the shackles that are keeping us in the material world, sex desire, and it can transform it into like the highest thing, selfless love and compassion for all souls. Kartika?
I was just thinking like how the things that you were talking about, like, oh, Hare Krishnas do that. So I was just thinking like even in the material world, if you want to do something good, you have to work like exceptionally hard and like you have to give up so many things. Like even if you want to have like a good body, you have to invest so many hours in the gym, you have to restrain yourself from eating all
Diet.
the nonsense stuff. So like it is so funny that people are like categorize other people like, oh, Hare Krishna. It is a common sense. Like if you want to do something good, you have to restrain yourself from doing a few things. You have to keep doing a few good things. So it doesn't make any sense at all. Even every day going to work is an austerity.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah. We should say, oh, you're not allowed to stay home. Whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, mode of goodness means giving up something for a higher purpose. So everybody's giving up something, right? It's just, what is your purpose? What is your higher purpose? Their higher purpose is not so high. Higher purpose is money for sense gratification, right? So our higher purpose is Krishna prema, going back home, back to Godhead. So choose the highest purpose and do whatever it takes to achieve that high purpose. No regrets. Okay, we better wrap it up. Jai, thank you all for coming. Let's just see what's going on here on
There's some
YouTube.
conversation on YouTube.
There's some conversation. Oh, whenever you talk about money and sex, people are going to get interested. Okay, let's see. Just kidding. Which chapter? Oh, we were on chapter 16. Will God forgive us if we devote ourselves and change our life? Yes. Krishna says that Sarva Dharmam Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Yishami Ma Shucha. He says, just give up your ways of life, abandon all your material dharmas, and just surrender to him. And he says, if you just surrender to me, I will free you from all your sinful reactions. So Krishna not only forgives us, but he frees us from all of our past, all of our bad karma, all of our karma. And he helps us in so many ways. So doesn't matter what you've done in the past, just start chanting Hare Krishna. There's a saying that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. That means that people that you see now that are saintly devotees, you know, they may have done all kinds of bad stuff, maybe worse than what you've done. But now they're saintly. So transformation took place, right? And that means that every sinner, so now if you're a sinner, you know, you are what you are, but every sinner has a future. It means that you can become a different person. You can transform your life by Krishna's grace if you're sincere and determined. So please be sincere and determined and try to develop these divine qualities. That's what we're all working on it. Okay, we're going to end there. Thank you very much. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol.